Howdy neighbors, good morning everybody. So glad to be along with you today. Joining us this morning, the Honorable 3rd District Congressman Frank Lucas from the northwestern half state of Oklahoma, and of course the chairman of the House Agriculture Committee up in Washington, D.C. Congressman, thank you for being with us this morning, and you're getting ready to head back to Washington, D.C. A few days left in the congressional session in the month of September, and it's about over, really. At this point, what are you hearing from leadership about the possibility of getting some time on your bill?
Well, the real challenge is, Ron, there's 8 legislative days scheduled in September. We go back on the 10th, which is just right around the corner. I'm not sure whether we'll be there in October or not. We still have to complete floor action on a farm bill. We still have to then go to conference with the Senate and ultimately take up both conference bills. That's going to be a really tough agenda. As you and I have discussed in the last few days, the real question becomes when the membership comes back from the August work period, will they be fired up? Will they help me focus leadership on making time available? I'm not so sure, and that's beginning to worry me, Ron.
Now, let's talk a little bit about the various possibilities. Obviously, you'd like to see floor time in September, do the conference, get something reported back. That, as you mentioned, is going to be very, very tough. What are the other options?
Well, we could potentially do a short-term extension, take the present farm bill and run it over into, say, January or February. I think that's the least likely option of all. There was discussion before we came home in July about a 1-year extension, take the 08 farm bill and add 1 extra year to turn it into a 6-year farm bill. I think there's still a distinct possibility of that. And then, of course, doing nothing. And the question there becomes, and that's the option I like the least of all, is various big parts of the present farm bill begin to expire on September 30. The crop insurance checks for this year will still go out. The conservation programs for next year will still be in place. We have 1 more direct payment that will come out in October. But various things begin to unwind. That's why we need to do a farm bill or an extension, or at least provide certainty.
I know that we've even heard the possibility of maybe some sort of a conference without necessarily having to take the full bill to the floor.
Well, the big challenge there is you have some philosophical differences. In the House, we want at least $16.5 billion in nutrition savings. The Senate has a $4 billion number. You know, in the House, we want not only the shallow loss revenue program, but we want to give producers a price option too. The Senate's not been inclined for that. I've been trying very aggressively working with my colleagues, but some things just require a formal conference, formal votes, yay or nays, head-butting to get it done. And short of that, I don't know how we work out some of these differences.
Of course, the big difference, as much as anything, there's obviously some things with the commodity title, but nutrition, that was a huge, huge concern.
Oh, very much so. But at least in nutrition, we all agree what the policy differences will make. So the question then becomes, what's the dollar amount or what are the reform efforts? And we'll achieve that number. But on the commodity side, remember in the Senate, they only have their so-called shallow loss revenue program. That doesn't work for southern crops and western crops. I've got to have an option so that wheat farmers and cotton farmers and rice and peanut people can participate too. Right now, with what the Senate's passed, unless you're a bean or corn farmer, you're kind of left out.
So, you know, summing the thing up, at this point, as you look going back next week into Washington, D.C., what are you going to try to tell, you know, Speaker Boehner, Majority Leader Cantor? Something
has to happen. We cannot go without farm bill policy. The question just simply becomes, when will it happen and in what form will it occur? The better, the sooner the better, of course, the more comprehensive the better, but I just don't know yet. But something has to happen, Ron.
Okay. Congressman, appreciate your time today. Congressman Frank Lucas joining us today. I'm Ron Hayes. We remind you 24 hours a day, 7 days a week. You can check out the latest on our agricultural news site at www.oklahomafarmreport.com and be listening to us on great radio stations all across the state on the Radio Oklahoma Network, a service of Griffin Communications. I'm Ron Hayes for News 9.